I didn't say anything that split the room. I said something that split you from your comfort. She told me that I was divisive and expected me to feel bad. I posted, "This is what it sounds like when Black women stop whispering about white women." And there has been a gangbusters response. Nearly 2,000 reactions, close to 400 comments, over 300 reposts. And there have been lots of really wonderful sentiments. People who are like, yes, I've been wondering the same thing. This is fire. You hit the nail on the head, 100% truth. And I've seen a couple of comments that are entirely the opposite, where women are saying, you're being divisive. You're dividing us. It doesn't make sense for you to accuse somebody who's already oppressed of their oppression. What I find so interesting about posting what isn't being said out loud, the questions that some Black women have of white women, is the number of white women who are clutching their pearls. Like, girl, we weren't allies to begin with. One woman said, how would you like it if we used your oppressed identity against you? And my thought is, why are you coming after the oppressed and not the oppressor? At what point are we going to stop protecting white men? At what point are we going to acknowledge that we live in a white supremacist patriarchy that seeks to deny the humanity of anybody who isn't white, male, Christian, under the age of 50? What I'm saying is that perhaps the quiet part needs to be said out loud. I asked, why do you lay down every night next to a man who doesn't think you're a full human being? Why do you keep having his children? I will be damned if I am going to wash somebody's doo-doo track drawers who doesn't think that I'm a full human, who can't contribute or support the household in a manner that adds to the household. There are far too many men, regardless of what their identities are, who have the belief that women should be their maids, their mothers, their cheerleaders, their porn stars, all of this rolled up into one person, while also being the manager of the house, while also perhaps keeping track of the finances, and then the expectation of raising children. Why would I do that? And the better question, what's going through my mind and the mind of many Black women, based upon the conversations that I've had, is why would you? What is it within you that allows you to decenter your humanity in an effort to support somebody else's power? Those are the things that I think we have a hard time coming to grips with, having a hard time understanding. And the finger is so easy to point at me for saying the thing that requires folks to reflect. That's what I do in my practice. I'm going to ask you the questions that are almost impossible to get away from. You may not want to answer them with me, which is completely fine, but you will answer them. They will find their way into who you are. And you will have to deal with them at some point, whether it's now, whether it's when you're ready to deal with it, or whether it's on your deathbed when you have squandered the time that you have to live the life that supports who you are as a human being, the things that you want to do, and to experience the love that you deserve. Every woman with a pulse was astounded when we saw that there were 62 million visits to a website that helped men to essay and grape their partners. Like, what in the whole hell? That harms us as women. These men are learning how to assault us in our sleep. How many of you know a woman who's been SA'd or great? How many of you know men who have been held accountable for those crimes? And I just have one question. So it's nearly all women, but not all men. And we are having conversations about the questions that some women have of other women and how we didn't ask politely, how we have the audacity to ask questions. Within that thinking is an air of superiority that's impossible to get over, an air of superiority that's impossible to overlook. If I can't ask questions surrounding your behavior, and your behavior impacts every woman that walks this earth, or at least nearly every woman in the United States, then how do we get to the promised land as a collective? How do we move into a space where we all have equal rights? These are questions that I have around how do you love someone who cares more about your body count than he cares about whether you've been afraid of another man, about how other men treat you? about how he treats you. And if you have ever been fearful of him, there is a desire to protect men who chant, "We will not be replaced," when the women who love them, when the women who take care of them could potentially be erased by sundown. Not all men, certainly not all men, but we must ask questions of the men who seek to hold our very humanity in their hands. No one gets a say on who's human and who's not. There isn't a man alive that can tell you she deserves to be human and she doesn't. When we are stripped of our collective power, we are all disempowered, not just those of us who ask the question. I've been doing this work for a really long time. By the time I was 19, I was facilitating workshops on diversity and inclusion. So for 30 years, I have been doing this work. James Baldwin said something that I think is so important for us, especially in these conversations around identity when it gets difficult. He said, "Not everything that's faith can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faith." You may not like the way I ask the question. Hell, I might not like the way you ask the question either. But the only way that we are going to become allies, the only way that we are going to meet in the middle is if we are willing to face what stands between us. We're not going to be able to move forward if we're unwilling to face each other with rawness of who we are, with the questions that we are afraid to ask, with the questions we're afraid to answer. And in all of this, you choose to go after the person who is most oppressed in this situation rather than the oppressor, rather than the victimizer. The unmitigated gall that comes with demanding that we just get over it. You don't ask your questions. You get over those questions in service of being an ally. That helps no one except for the person who is in the position of superiority over another person. Then they don't have to deal with their shit. They don't have to deal with what they've given up in order to have proximity to power. I've been doing this work before it was a hashtag, before it was a book club pick, before anyone cared. I'm a speaker. I am an author. I'm a leadership consultant, creator of the Grown Latchkey Kid framework. I don't build bridges for people who won't walk over them. I don't soften my questions so your comfort survives the conversation. And I am not, hear me when I say this, I am not aligning with anyone who wants my voice, my labor, and my expertise without my critique. It is a package deal. If that divides us, then we were never together. You were never my ally. And we likely won't be allies. You think that I'm divisive because I said something that split the room. But no, I didn't say anything that split the room. I said something that split you from your comfort. I asked these questions that divided you from the safety of not being held accountable for how you are complicit in a system that seeks to oppress us all, that seeks to victimize us all. If unity for you requires my silence, then it's not unity and I don't want it. You can keep it. I don't want it. If you require my compliance to stand beside me in order for there to be an us, in order for there to be unity, then there was never an us. Ever. Let's just say the quiet thing out loud. No one wants to be uncomfortable. And for people who have proximity to power and privilege, even in their oppressed state, that proximity is going to outweigh unity and being allied with someone who doesn't have the power and privilege that you've become accustomed to, that doesn't have the proximity to the power and privilege that you have sacrificed your humanity for. There are so many of us, not just Black women, women of color, and other white women who have been made uncomfortable for our very survival. There's no survival in our lives without discomfort, without being asked the questions that continue to dehumanize us to this day. We've been made uncomfortable in our workplaces, in our friend groups, in our politics, and now the discomfort is coming from the inside of the house, and you want us to stand out by the gate and wait for you to come while you get dressed? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm coming in the house. I'm asking you the questions that I want the answers to because as your ally, I deserve them. If you've got questions of me, if I'm your ally, then I am going to assume positive intent. I am going to answer your questions. If it's a call out, my mother used to say all the time, a hit dog, a holler. The problem is that the call is coming from inside the house, that you are discomforted by that call. And the reality, when we boil it down, it isn't the discomfort. It's that you thought that you were exempt from anyone asking questions about your complicity in the experience that we are sharing. Complicity isn't one direction. We are all complicit in the creation of where we are right now in this world, in this country, in our intimate lives, in our professional lives. The work that I've done for 30 years with some of the world's biggest names, that's how I counteract systemic oppression. That's how I show up for people who are unwilling to show up for me. That's how I show up for people who have yet to show up to the party but are going to question the party dress that I show up in. Being an ally isn't something that you say. It's not something that you put in your Facebook or Instagram bio. It requires real work. And if you're not doing the work, then being an ally is more of a decoration. That's not work. Now, let me talk to you for a second, not the comment section, but you. You're out here holding it together, leading, producing, showing up, and nobody knows what it costs you to be this person because you built yourself early. You didn't have a choice. And that's not a trauma story. That's an operating system, and it's running everything: your leadership, your relationships, your decisions, the things you tolerate that you know damn well you shouldn't. I created something called the Grown Latchkey Kid Survival Kit. It's the first step in understanding the pattern you've been living inside of without a name for it. Go to pineapplelampshade.com/survival kit. Get the kit. And if this hits you in your chest, good. That means it's working. Each of us holds responsibility for all of us. And if we are going to shift and change and move together, we're going to have to be able to say the quiet thing out loud. We're going to have to ask questions that we want the answers to and demand those answers of each other. And if that makes me divisive, good. Now, what are you going to do about it?